Stop. Please don't do this to us." The scream echoed through the marble hallway, bouncing off the walls of the luxury penthouse. A pregnant woman, tears streaming down her face, clutched the leg of a man who looked down at her with nothing but ice in his eyes. He didn't just want a divorce, he wanted to destroy her. He thought she was a nobody, a penniless burden dragging down his rise to the top. He thought he had won. But he made one fatal mistake. He forgot to check who her father was. When the courtroom doors swung open and that man walked in, the silence was deafening. You won't believe the regret that shattered his world in seconds. Rain battered the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Seattle high-rise apartment, blurring the city lights into streaks of grey and gold. Inside, the atmosphere was suffocating. Madeline "Maddie" Sterling stood in the center of the living room, her hands protectively cradling her 7-month baby bump. She looked small against the stark, modern furniture that her husband Liam favored. Her oversized sweater swallowed her frame, making her look fragile, which was exactly how Liam liked her, until now. "Liam, please." Madeline's voice cracked barely a whisper over the drumming rain. "You can't be serious. Not now. The baby is due in 8 weeks. Liam stood by the fireplace, adjusting the cuffs of his bespoke Italian suit. He didn't look at her. He was looking at his reflection in the mirror above the mantel, checking his teeth. "I've already filed the papers, Madeline. My lawyer, Richard Thorne, sent them over an hour ago. You just need to sign." "Sign?" Madeline took a shaky step forward. "You're throwing me out. Where am I supposed to go?" "I have no family here, Liam. I gave up my job, my apartment, everything to support your career." Finally, Liam turned. His face, once the handsome visage that had charmed her 3 years ago in a dusty library, was now twisted into a sneer of contempt. "And that was your choice, wasn't it? Look at you. You're pathetic. A clingy, unemployed housewife who offers me nothing." "I offer you a home. I'm carrying your son," Madeline cried out, tears spilling hot and fast down her cheeks. "You're carrying a liability," Liam shot back, his voice raising for the first time. "I'm about to make partner at Hargrove and Associates. Do you know what that requires? It requires a spouse who fits the part, someone with connections, someone with status, not a library assistant who thinks clipping coupons is a personality trait." Madeline felt the blood drain from her face. She had met Liam when she was volunteering at a public library, hiding her background to avoid exactly the kind of people who only cared about status. She had fallen for him because he seemed hard-working and humble. She had thought they were building a life together, brick by brick. "I loved you when you were an intern, Liam," she said softly. "I paid the rent when you were studying for the bar exam. I cooked your meals on a hot plate in that studio apartment. And that is exactly where you belong." Liam laughed, a cruel barking sound. "In a studio apartment. You haven't grown, Madeline. I have. I've outgrown you." He walked over to the coffee table and picked up a thick manila envelope. He tossed it at her. It struck her shoulder and fell to the floor with a heavy thud. "Sign them by tomorrow morning. I want you out of the house by noon. I'm hosting a dinner party tomorrow night, and I don't want your clutter everywhere." Madeline fell to her knees, sobbing. The hormones, the shock, and the sheer cruelty were too much. She grabbed the hem of his trousers. "Liam, please, for the sake of our son, just let me stay until the baby is born. I have nowhere to go. Don't do this." He shook her off, as if she were a piece of dirt on his expensive shoe. "Get off me. You're wrinkling the fabric." Just then the front door beeped and unlocked. Madeline froze. Only she and Liam had keys. The heavy oak door swung open, and the click-clack of high heels echoed on the hardwood floor. A woman stepped in, shaking a wet umbrella with an air of entitlement. She was tall, blonde, and wearing a trench coat that cost more than Madeline's entire maternity wardrobe. It was Jessica Vance, the daughter of the senior partner at Liam's law firm. "Honey, I'm here," Jessica chirped, her voice gratingly sweet. She stopped when she saw Madeline on the floor. Her lips curled into a smirk. "Oh, is she still here? I thought you said you were taking out the trash." Madeline looked up, her vision blurry. "Jessica, what are you doing here?" Jessica didn't answer Madeline. Instead, she walked past her, stepping deliberately close to Madeline's fingers on the floor, and wrapped her arms around Liam's neck. She kissed him deeply right in front of his pregnant wife. Liam melted into the kiss, his cold demeanor vanishing instantly. He held Jessica close, whispering, "I'm sorry you had to see this, babe. She's being difficult." "They always are." Jessica sighed, resting her head on Liam's shoulder while staring dead at Madeline. "Look at her, Liam. She looks like a drowned rat. Are you sure the baby is even yours? She looks like she's been sleeping in a dumpster." "Jessica, stop." Madeline gasped, struggling to stand up. Her back ached violently. "This is my home." "Not anymore." Jessica laughed. She pulled a document out of her designer bag. "Daddy's sorry Mr. Vance already transferred the deed. Liam bought you out." "Well, technically, since you didn't contribute financially to the mortgage payments in the last 2 years, the court views your equity as negligible. We're generous, though. We're giving you $5,000. That should be enough for a bus ticket back to wherever you came from." $5,000. Madeline felt a wave of nausea. "The down payment on this place came from my savings." "Savings you can't prove," Liam interjected smoothly. "It was cash, Madeline. No paper trail. My lawyers, Jessica's father's lawyers, have already structured the narrative. You're a financial dependent who contributed nothing." Madeline realized then the depth of the conspiracy. This wasn't a sudden decision. Liam had been planning this for months. He had been siphoning money, hiding assets, and preparing to discard her the moment he secured his position with the Vance family. "You're trading me for a promotion," Madeline said, her voice trembling with a mix of rage and sorrow. "I'm trading a Honda for a Ferrari," Liam corrected, smirking at Jessica. "Jessica is a woman of culture. She runs a gallery. She knows the mayor." "What do you know, Madeline the Dewey Decimal System?" Jessica giggled. "Oh, don't be so mean, Liam. She makes a decent casserole, apparently. Maybe we can hire her as the maid." The two of them laughed. The sound was hideous, filling the room with a toxicity that made Madeline feel physically ill. She looked at Liam one last time. "You will regret this, Liam. You have no idea what you are doing." Liam rolled his eyes. "The only thing I regret is not doing this sooner. Now get out, or I'll have security drag you out." Madeline wiped her face. A sudden calm washed over her. It was the calm of a bridge burning down, leaving only ash behind. She didn't need to beg anymore. The man she loved was dead. This monster was a stranger. "I need an hour to pack my things," Madeline said, her voice surprisingly steady. 20 minutes, Jessica counted, checking her diamond-encrusted watch. "I have decorators coming at 8:00 p.m. to measure for the nursery." "My nursery." Madeline turned and walked to the bedroom. She didn't pack clothes. She didn't pack the baby toys she had bought. She reached under the floorboard in the back of her closet, a secret spot Liam never knew about. She pulled out a small, dusty black box. Inside was a single phone, an old model, and a passport with a surname she hadn't used in 5 years. She turned on the phone. It had only one number saved. She dialed. It rang once. Twice. "Madeline?" a deep, gravelly voice answered. It sounded like thunder rolling in the distance. "Daddy?" Madeline whispered, her voice breaking. "I made a mistake. I need you." There was a pause on the other end, followed by the sound of a chair scraping back as if a giant had just stood up. "Where are you, Princess?" "Seattle. He's throwing me out. He's leaving me for his boss's daughter. I'm pregnant, Daddy." The silence that followed was terrifying. It wasn't the silence of inaction. It was the silence of a predator spotting prey. "Pack nothing," her father said. "Go to the lobby. My driver Kavanaugh is already in the city for business. He will be there in 4 minutes. I am coming." "Daddy, please," Madeline sniffled. "I don't want a scene. I just want to go home." "Oh, you are coming home," the voice growled. "But first I am going to buy that city and burn it to the ground." Madeline left the apartment with nothing but her purse and the coat on her back. As she walked past the living room, Liam and Jessica were already drinking champagne. "Leaving so soon?" Liam called out, not bothering to look up from his phone. "Don't forget to leave the keys on the counter." Madeline placed the keys gently on the marble island. "Goodbye, Liam." Yeah. Good luck with the baby. Send me the bill for the delivery." "I might pay half if I'm in a good mood," he sneered. She walked out the door, the sound of their laughter chasing her down the hall. Down in the lobby, the rain was torrential. The doorman, an older man named Henry, who had always been kind to her, looked at her with pity. "Mrs. Sterling." "You don't have an umbrella," Henry said, rushing over. "Is everything all right?" "You look pale." "I'm fine, Henry. Thank you," she whispered, shivering as the cold wind swept through the automatic doors. "Can I call you a cab?" "It's dangerous out there for you," Henry insisted. Before she could answer, a sleek black Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up to the curb. It was massive, imposing, and out of place even in this upscale neighborhood. The flags of a diplomatic convoy were not present, but the aura of power was undeniable. The rear door opened, and a man in a sharp black suit stepped out with an umbrella. It was Kavanaugh, her father's head of security, for the last 30 years. He had grey hair now, but he looked as formidable as ever. "Miss Madeline," Kavanaugh said, bowing slightly. He held the umbrella over her, shielding her completely from the storm. Henry, the doorman, dropped his clipboard. He recognized the car. He recognized the crest on the side. "Kavanaugh." Madeline exhaled, her legs giving out. He caught her effortlessly. "Easy, miss. You're safe now. Mr. Blackwood is on his jet. He will land in 3 hours. "Blackwood?" Henry whispered, his eyes wide. "As in Robert Blackwood." Kavanaugh ignored the doorman and helped Madeline into the back seat of the Rolls-Royce. The interior was warm, smelling of aged leather and safety. "Where to, miss?" Kavanaugh asked as he got into the driver's seat. "Just away from here," Madeline said, leaning her head back. "Mr. Blackwood has instructed me to take you to the presidential suite at the Four Seasons," Kavanaugh said, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. His eyes were hard. "He also instructed me to ask, do you want us to intervene tonight?" "No," Madeline said, closing her eyes. "Not tonight. Liam has a big court hearing on Friday, the Merriweather case. It's the case that's supposed to make him a partner." Kavanaugh nodded slowly. "Friday. Very well. We shall wait for Friday." 2 days later, the courtroom. The morning of the hearing was bright and crisp. The Superior Court of Seattle was bustling with reporters. The Merriweather case was a high-profile corporate fraud trial, and Liam Sterling was the lead defense attorney. If he won this, he saved a corrupt pharmaceutical company millions, and his partnership at Hargrove and Associates was guaranteed. Liam strode into the courtroom like he owned it. He was wearing his lucky navy suit. Jessica was in the gallery, sitting in the front row, looking like a trophy wife in waiting. She gave him a thumbs up. Liam arranged his papers. He felt invincible. He had kicked Madeline out 48 hours ago and hadn't heard a peep. She was probably crying in a motel somewhere. He felt lighter, unburdened. "All rise," the bailiff bellowed. "The Honourable Judge Anthony Hargrove presiding." Liam smirked. The judge was Jessica's uncle. The corruption in this town ran deep, and Liam was swimming right in the centre of the current. This trial was a formality. The proceedings began. Liam was brilliant. He tore apart the prosecution's witnesses. He used legal jargon to confuse the jury. He was winning. Then, halfway through the afternoon session, the double doors at the back of the courtroom groaned open. Usually people entered quietly, but this entry caused a shift in the air pressure of the room. First came 4 men in suits. Security. They scanned the room with professional menace. Then a man walked in. He was in his 60s, but he moved with the vitality of a man half his age. He wore a charcoal grey 3-piece suit that was tailored to perfection. He had silver hair swept back, and his eyes were like blue steel. He carried a silver-handled cane, not because he needed it, but because it looked like a weapon. It was Robert Blackwood, the billionaire industrialist, the man who owned half of the steel mills in the country, a shipping empire, and effectively a good portion of the city's real estate. He was a man who didn't just have money. He had influence. Presidents called him for advice. A gasp rippled through the gallery. Even Judge Hargrove looked up, his glasses sliding down his nose. Why was Robert Blackwood here? This case had nothing to do with him. Liam paused in the middle of his closing statement. He frowned. He recognized the face from Forbes magazine covers, but he had never seen the man in person. And then behind Robert Blackwood, a woman entered. She was wearing a stunning, tailored white maternity dress that looked like it belonged on a runway in Paris. Her hair was professionally styled, her skin glowing. She held her head high, her hand resting on her belly. Liam dropped his pen. It clattered loudly on the floor. It was Madeline. But it wasn't the Madeline he knew. This wasn't the girl in the oversized sweater. This was a woman radiating power. She walked beside Robert Blackwood, and the billionaire took her arm, gently guiding her to the front row, directly behind the prosecution table. Jessica, sitting on the defense side, went pale. She tugged on Liam's sleeve. "Liam," she hissed. "Why is Madeline with Robert Blackwood?" Liam couldn't speak. His throat was dry as sand. Robert Blackwood sat down, crossed his legs, and stared directly at Liam. He didn't blink. He simply pointed his silver cane at Liam, then tapped it on the floor once. Thud. It sounded like a gavel sealing a death sentence. Judge Hargrove cleared his throat nervously. "Mr. Sterling, please continue your closing statement." Liam stammered. As I was saying." He looked at Madeline. She offered him a small, cold smile. Robert Blackwood leaned over to the prosecutor, a young, overworked man named David Miller, who was losing the case badly. Robert whispered something in David's ear and handed him a thick blue folder. David Miller opened the folder. His eyes widened. He looked at Robert, then at Liam. A look of shock turned into a grin of predatory delight. David Miller stood up. Your Honor, I apologize for the interruption, but new evidence has just been submitted to the state. Evidence regarding witness tampering and bribery by the defense counsel. The courtroom erupted. Objection! Liam screamed, sweat instantly beading on his forehead. This is highly irregular. Sit down, Mr. Sterling, Judge Hargrove snapped, though he looked terrified, his eyes darting to Robert Blackwood. Robert Blackwood stood up slowly. The room went silent. Your Honor, Robert's voice boomed deep and resonant. I am not a lawyer, but I am the majority shareholder of the parent company that owns the pharmaceutical firm on trial. I purchased it this morning. Gasps erupted. Flashbulbs went off. And, Robert continued, turning his gaze to Liam, I am also the father of the woman that man there threw out into the rain 2 nights ago. Madeline Blackwood. Madeline Blackwood. The name hung in the air like samwathamwasamk. Liam felt his knees buckle. He grabbed the table for support. Blackwood Madeline was a Blackwood, the heiress to a $40 billion empire. He looked at Jessica. She was shaking her face buried in her hands. She knew. Everyone knew the name Blackwood. I have provided the prosecution with emails. Robert continued, his voice calm but terrifying. Emails sent from Mr. Sterling's private server detailing how he bribed 3 witnesses in this case. I found them quite interesting reading while I was flying in. That's a lie, Liam shouted, losing his composure. He hacked me. That's illegal. I own the server company too, son. Robert smiled. Terms of service. Look it up. The courtroom descended into absolute chaos. It wasn't the polite murmuring of a confused gallery. It was the roar of a scandal breaking in real time. Reporters were practically climbing over the pews to get a better shot of Robert Blackwood, who stood like a titan amidst the ruin he had just orchestrated. Judge Hargrove banged his gavel, but the sound was weak, barely registering over the noise. He looked at the folder the prosecutor David Miller had handed him. His face drained of color. The emails weren't just about bribery. They implicated the judge in favorable scheduling for the defense firm. Order in this court, Hargrove shrieked, his voice cracking. Liam Sterling stood frozen. The air in his lungs felt like it had turned to glass. He looked at the prosecutor, then at Robert, and finally his gaze landed on Madeline. She was watching him. She wasn't smiling anymore. Her expression was one of profound, pitying disappointment. It was the look one gives to a child who has broken a valuable vase, not out of malice, but out of sheer stupidity. Mr. Sterling. Judge Hargrove said, his voice trembling. He knew he had to sacrifice Liam to save himself. These documents, they appear to be authentic logs from your firm's internal communications. They detail a payment of $50,000 to the witness, Mr. Henderson. It's a fabrication, Liam yelled, pointing a shaking finger at Robert. He's a billionaire. He can forge anything. This is a setup because of a personal vendetta. Robert Blackwood laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. A personal vendetta, Mr. Sterling, until 48 hours ago. I didn't know you existed. You were a rounding error in my daughter's life. But now you are my project. Robert turned to the judge. Your Honor, my legal team is currently filing a motion with the State Bar Association. But I believe the immediate concern is the integrity of this trial. The judge swallowed hard. Case dismissed with prejudice. Bailiffs take Mr. Sterling into custody for questioning regarding witness tampering. What? Liam gasped. 2 bailiffs' men Liam had joked with in the hallways for years moved toward him. They weren't smiling. Hands behind your back, counselor. One of them grunted, spinning Liam around. The click of the handcuffs was the loudest sound in the world. Jessica, who had been sitting in the front row, suddenly jumped up. She grabbed her purse and covered her face, sprinting toward the exit. "Jessica!" Liam shouted as he was shoved forward. "Jessica, call your father! Call the firm!" Jessica didn't look back. She pushed through the doors, her heels clacking rapidly as she fled the sinking ship. As the bailiffs led Liam down the center aisle, he had to walk past Madeline. He slowed down, fighting the grip of the officers. "Maddie," he pleaded, his voice dropping to a desperate whisper. "Maddie, tell them who I am. I'm the father of your child. You can't let me go to jail." Madeline stood up slowly, assisted by her father. She looked him in the eye, her hand resting protectively on her bump. "The father of my child is a man who loved me," she said softly, so only he could hear. You're just a man who wanted a promotion." "I did it for us," Liam cried, tears streaming down his face now. "I wanted to be worthy of you. You didn't know who I was," Madeline corrected him. "You thought I was a nobody. You wanted to be worthy of them." She gestured to the empty seat where Jessica had been. "And now you have exactly what you deserve." Robert Blackwood leaned in his voice a low growl. "My lawyers will handle the divorce, Liam. If you ever come within 500 feet of my daughter or my grandchild again, I won't send you to jail. I will send you somewhere much darker." The bailiffs shoved Liam forward, dragging him out into the hallway where a wall of cameras awaited him. The flashbulbs blinded him, capturing the moment of his total destruction for the evening news. Liam spent only one night in holding before his firm posted bail not to save him, but to get him into a conference room, to fire him. When he walked out of the police station the next morning, unshaven and still wearing his wrinkled navy suit, there was no Rolls-Royce waiting for him. There was no Jessica. There was only a cold drizzle and a text message from his assistant. "Bring your keys. Don't talk to anyone." He took a taxi to the offices of Hargrove and Associates. When he swiped his ID badge at the turnstile, it blinked red. Access denied. The security guard, a man Liam had never deigned to learn the name of, stepped forward with a cardboard box. "Mr. Sterling," the guard said flatly. "Mr. Holloway, Jessica's father, said you are not allowed on the premises. Your personal effects are in the box." Liam stared at the box. It contained a framed degree, a stapler, and a stress ball. "This is illegal." Liam snapped, his exhaustion making him manic. "I am a senior associate. I demand to see Mr. Holloway." "Mr. Holloway is in a crisis meeting with the partners," the guard said, blocking his path. "Apparently they lost 3 major clients this morning. Something about the Blackwood Group pulling all contracts." Liam felt the blood leave his head. Blackwood wasn't just targeting him. He was dismantling the entire ecosystem that had supported Liam's arrogance. Liam grabbed the box and stormed out. He tried calling Jessica. Straight to voicemail. He tried again. Blocked. He stood on the sidewalk, the rain soaking his expensive suit. He had no job. His bank accounts were likely frozen or about to be drained by legal fees. He had kicked his pregnant wife out of their apartment, but technically the apartment was in his name. Wait. The apartment. He hailed another cab. 1400 Skyline Drive, he barked. He needed to regroup. He would sell the apartment. It was worth $2 million. He could take the equity, hire a defense attorney, and fight this. He could sue Madeline for emotional distress. He could sue for custody and force a settlement. He arrived at the penthouse building. He marched to the elevator, pressing the button for the top floor. When he reached his door, he jammed his key into the lock. It wouldn't turn. He jiggled it. Nothing. The door opened from the inside. Standing there was a large man with a thick neck and a shirt that said Titan Security. "Can I help you?" the man asked. "This is my house," Liam shouted, trying to push past him. "Not anymore," the man said, not budging an inch. "Foreclosure proceedings began this morning. The bank called in the loan. There was a clause about employment stability and moral turpitude. You defaulted, Mr. Sterling." "That takes months," Liam screamed. "Not when the bank is owned by Blackwood Financial." The security guard smirked. "They expedited the process. We're here to change the locks and secure the asset. You have 10 minutes to collect clothing. Anything else stays." Liam pushed past the guard and ran into the living room. It was empty. Not just empty of Madeline, it was empty. The furniture was gone. The art was gone. "Where is my stuff?" Liam yelled. "Repo men took the furniture." "Least, wasn't it?" the guard said, leaning against the doorframe. "And the woman, the blonde one. She came by an hour ago with a mover's crew. Took everything else. Said she paid for it, so it's hers." Jessica. She had looted the apartment. Liam ran to the bedroom. The closet was bare. His suits, his watches, his shoes all gone. He fell to his knees on the hardwood floor. The same floor where Madeline had begged him just 2 days ago. He remembered her words. "I offer you a home." She had made this place a home. She had picked the curtains he hated, but secretly liked. She had filled the fridge. She had created warmth in a cold glass box. Now he was alone in the glass box, and the temperature was dropping. 3 weeks later, Liam was staying in a motel on the outskirts of the city near the airport. The room smelled of stale smoke and despair. He had sold his Rolex, the one watch Jessica hadn't found, because he was wearing it to pay for the room, and a cheap burner phone. He had become a pariah. The video of his arrest had gone viral. The billionaire's son-in-law was the headline mocking him. No law firm would touch him. He was delivering food for a gig app just to eat. But anger still burned in him. It wasn't regret yet. It was a furious, victimized anger. He blamed Madeline. She had lied to him. If he had known she was a Blackwood, he would have treated her like a queen. It was her fault for hiding it. She entrapped him. He sat on the lumpy bed, staring at the wall. He needed leverage. His phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. "Hello," he answered cautiously. "Liam." The voice was hushed, frantic. It was Jessica. Liam griped the phone. "You witch. You stole my clothes. You left me there to rot." "Liam, shut up and listen," Jessica hissed. "I'm in trouble. Big trouble." "Good," Liam spat. "No, you idiot, if I go down, you go down further," she said. "My father, he's trying to cut a deal with Blackwood. He's going to pin the bribery entirely on you. He's going to say you acted alone, that the firm knew nothing." "That's a lie. Your father signed the checks." "I know," Jessica cried. "But they shredded the physical copies. Liam, they are going to send you to prison for 10 years. You need to get out of town." Liam felt the cold grip of fear. 10 years. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked suspiciously. "Because I have something that can help you," Jessica said. Her voice trembled. "I have the digital backups, the ones my father thought I deleted. It proves he ordered the bribery. It proves the judge was on the payroll." Liam sat up. "You have the smoking gun?" "Yes, but I can't use it. If I use it, my father will cut me off. I have no money, Liam. I'm used to a certain lifestyle." "So what do you want?" "I want to sell it to you," Jessica said. "For $10,000, cash. You buy the drive, you take it to the prosecutor, you get immunity, and my father takes the fall. I take the money and go to Europe until this blows over. I don't have $10,000, Jessica. I'm delivering pizzas. Find it, she snapped. Beg Madeline. She has billions. Tell her you have evidence that will destroy the people who hurt her. She'll pay for it. Liam paused. It was a crazy plan. But it was his only way out. If he could prove the firm was behind it, he could clear his name. And maybe, just maybe, if he brought this trophy to Madeline, he could redeem himself. Fine, Liam said. Where? The old shipyard. Warehouse 4. Midnight. Come alone. Liam hung up. His heart was pounding. This was it. The turn of the tide. He spent the rest of the day frantically calling old college buddies, begging for loans. He managed to scrape together $4,000 and promised the rest later. He hoped he could bluff Jessica. At 11:30 p.m. he drove his beat-up rental car to the shipyard. The fog was thick, rolling off the water like a ghostly blanket. He found Warehouse 4. The rusty door groaned as he pushed it open. "Jessica," he called out. The warehouse was dimly lit by a single hanging bulb. In the center, standing under the light, was Jessica. She was wearing a trench coat, clutching a small silver USB drive. "Did you bring the money?" she asked, her voice echoing. "I have enough," Liam lied, walking closer. "Give me the drive." Jessica held it out her hand, shaking. "You promise this destroys my father." "I hate him, Liam. He called me a failure yesterday. He said I chose the wrong horse." "He's finished," Liam promised, reaching for the drive. Just as his fingers brushed the cold metal of the USB stick, blinding floodlights slammed on from the catwalks above. Liam shielded his eyes, stumbling back. "What the hell?" "Good evening, Liam," a deep voice boomed from the shadows. Robert Blackwood stepped out from behind a stack of shipping crates. He was flanked by Kavanaugh and 2 other security guards, and next to him stood Madeline. She looked tired but resolute. She wore a heavy wool coat, her hand resting on her belly. Liam looked at Jessica. Jessica wasn't scared. She lowered her hand and smiled a cruel, satisfied smirk. She tossed the USB drive to Kavanaugh, who caught it effortlessly. "Sorry, Liam," Jessica said, her voice dripping with venom. "I didn't want to go to Europe. I wanted to stay in Seattle. And Mr. Blackwood made me a much better offer." "You set me up," Liam whispered. "I needed the firm's records," Robert Blackwood said, walking into the light. "Jessica here was kind enough to provide them in exchange for leniency and for delivering you." "Delivering me?" Liam looked around. "For what? You want to beat me up?" "No." Madeline spoke up. Her voice was strong, clearer than he had ever heard it. "We aren't going to touch you, Liam. We brought you here so you could sign these." Kavanaugh stepped forward and slammed a clipboard onto a wooden crate. "Divorce papers. And a surrender of parental rights." "You sign these," Madeline said, "and the evidence on that. Drive the evidence that proves you were just a pawn and not the mastermind goes to the prosecutor. You get probation. You keep your freedom." "And if I don't?" Liam asked, shaking. "Then Jessica testifies that it was all your idea," Robert said. "She has immunity. You go to prison for 20 years for racketeering and fraud." Liam looked at Jessica. She gave him a little wave. "Strictly business, honey." Liam looked at the papers. It was the complete erasure of his legacy. He would have no claim to his child, no claim to his wife. "I want to see the baby," Liam choked out. "When it's born." You lost that right when you chose a promotion over a heartbeat, Madeline said coldly. Sign the papers, Liam. Be a smart lawyer for once in your life. Liam took the pen. His hand shook violently. He looked at Madeline one last time, searching for a trace of the woman who used to make him coffee in the morning. She was gone. In her place was a mother protecting her young from a predator. He signed. Done, he whispered. Kavanaugh, give him a ride to the bus station, Robert said, turning his back. Come, Madeline. It's late. As Madeline turned to leave, Liam shouted out, I loved you. In the beginning, I really did. Madeline stopped. She didn't turn around. That's the saddest part, Liam, she said to the darkness. I know you did. And you sold it for $5,000 and a corner office. She walked out into the night, leaving Liam alone in the warehouse, with nothing but the echo of his own signature. The silence inside the Rolls-Royce following the warehouse confrontation was heavy, but it was a clean silence. The kind that comes after a storm has finally broken. Madeline leaned her head against the cool glass of the window, watching the industrial lights of the shipyard blur into streaks of amber. She had done it. She had severed the tie. But as the adrenaline faded, a sharp, searing pain tore through her abdomen. It wasn't a contraction. It was a continuous, tearing sensation that stole the breath from her lungs. Daddy! Madeline gasped, her hand clutching her stomach. The pain was so sudden and intense that her vision tunneled. Robert Blackwood, who had been reviewing a document on his tablet, looked up instantly. The color drained from his face. Maddie. What is it? Something's wrong, she whispered, her voice wet with panic. It hurts. It's not supposed to hurt like this. She looked down. The beige upholstery of the car seat was staining dark crimson. Kavanaugh, Robert roared, dropping the tablet. Hospital. Now don't stop for anything. Kavanaugh didn't ask questions. He didn't look back. He slammed the accelerator to the floor. The massive V12 engine of the Phantom growled like a beast, and the car surged forward, weaving through the late-night traffic of Seattle's industrial district. Stay with me, Princess, Robert said, his voice trembling for the first time in decades. He took her hand. It was ice cold. You're going to be fine. We're going to Swedish Medical Center. The best doctors are already on my payroll. Just breathe. I can't lose him. Madeline sobbed, the pain coming in waves that made her teeth chatter. I lost Liam. I lost my home. I can't lose the baby. You won't, Robert promised, though his eyes were rimmed with terror. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. This is Blackwood. Code Blue Protocol. I am 4 minutes out from the ER. My daughter. Obstetric emergency. Hemorrhage. If there isn't a team waiting on the pavement when I arrive, I will dismantle your entire hospital board. The next 10 minutes were a blur of siren-like horns and tires screeching on asphalt. When the car skidded to a halt at the emergency entrance, a team of 6 doctors and nurses in blue scrubs was already waiting with a gurney. They pulled Madeline from the car. The world became a kaleidoscope of bright fluorescent lights, shouting voices, and the rhythmic beeping of monitors. Blood pressure is dropping 80/50, a nurse shouted. Fetal heart rate is decelerating, a doctor, Dr. Evans, announced grimly. We have a placental abruption. We need to move to the OR immediately. C-section. Now. Robert tried to follow them through the double doors, but a nurse held him back. Sir, you can't go in there. It's a sterile field. We need to work fast. That is my daughter, Robert shouted, his billionaire composure cracking. And we are trying to save her life, Dr. Evans said, pausing for a split second to look Robert in the eye. Let us do our job, Mr. Blackwood. The doors swung shut, leaving Robert standing in the stark white hallway. He was a man who could move markets with a whisper, a man who could buy countries. But here, under the hum of the hospital ventilation, he was powerless. He sank into a plastic chair, buried his face in his hands, and prayed to a God he hadn't spoken to since his wife died 20 years ago. Inside the operating room, it was controlled chaos. Madeline was fading. The anesthesia mask was placed over her face. "Liam," she mumbled, her subconscious betraying her conscious mind. In the face of death, she didn't call for her father. She called for the man who was supposed to be holding her hand, the man who had promised to love her in sickness and in health. But Liam wasn't there. He was likely on a bus, clutching a duffel bag of stolen office supplies, running from his own shadow. "Sleep now, Madeline," Dr. Evans said softly. "We've got at you." Darkness took her. She woke up to the sound of rain against a window. For a moment, she thought she was back in the penthouse, that the last week had been a nightmare. Then the smell of antiseptic hit her. She opened her eyes. The room was large, filled with flowers. White roses. Hundreds of them. "She's waking up," a familiar, gravelly voice whispered. Robert was sitting by the bed, looking 10 years older than he had the night before. "The baby," Madeline croaked, her throat dry as sandpaper. Robert smiled and tears welled in his steel blue eyes. He stood up and walked to a clear plastic bassinet in the corner of the room. He wheeled it over. Inside, swaddled in a blanket with blue ducks, was a tiny, sleeping infant. He had a shock of dark hair and a chin that was undeniably stubborn. "He fought hard," Robert said softly, "just like his mother. 5 pounds 8 ounces. He's perfect, Maddie." Madeline reached out a trembling finger and stroked the baby's cheek. He stirred, letting out a small mewling sound. He was here. He was real. He was hers. "Does he have a name?" Robert asked. Madeline looked at the baby. He didn't look like a Liam. He looked like a survivor. He had been rejected by his father, threatened by stress and born in violence. But he was here breathing peacefully. "Leo," Madeline whispered. "Leo Robert Blackwood." "Leo," Robert tested the name. "The lion. It fits." He paused, looking at his daughter with intense seriousness. "And the surname? Blackwood," Madeline said firmly. "He has no father. He only has a grandfather." Robert nodded, satisfied. "Then let's raise a king." 5 years later. The Space Needle pierced the night sky, illuminated in gold. Below it, at the Chihuly Garden and Glass Museum, the event of the season was underway. It was the annual Blackwood Foundation Gala. Tickets were $5,000 a plate, and they had sold out in minutes. The elite of the Pacific Northwest were there: tech moguls, politicians, old money families, and celebrities. Madeline Blackwood stood at the center of the room, holding a glass of sparkling water. At 29, she was breathtaking. The softness of her youth had hardened into a diamond-like elegance. She wore a midnight blue velvet gown that hugged her figure, and around her neck was a sapphire necklace that had once belonged to royalty. She wasn't just a socialite, she was a powerhouse. She had taken over the philanthropic division of her father's company and turned it into a global force for education and housing. She had built libraries in every underserved neighborhood in the state. "Great speech, Ms. Blackwood," a senator said, raising his glass to her. "The initiative for single mothers is revolutionary." "Thank you, Senator." Madeline smiled. It was a practiced, professional smile. We believe everyone deserves a safety net. Some people fall because they are pushed. She excused herself and walked toward the bar. She needed a moment of quiet. The air in the room was perfumed and expensive, reminding her of a life she had once tried to run away from. "Champagne, ma'am." A waiter appeared at her elbow holding a silver tray. He was wearing a standard-issue white tuxedo jacket that was slightly too large for him and cheap black trousers. His head was bowed in servitude. Madeline glanced at the tray. "No, thank you. Just ice water with lime." "Right away," the waiter murmured. His hand shook as he reached for the water pitcher. The ice clinked loudly against the glass. Madeline frowned. There was something about the hands. They were rougher now, calloused, but she knew the shape of those knuckles. She had held those hands while watching movies on a rainy Sunday. She had kissed those knuckles when they got paper cuts from studying. She looked up at the waiter's face. He had aged. His hair was thinning at the temples, and there were deep lines of bitterness etched around his mouth. He looked tired, worn down by years of disappointment. It was Liam. He kept his eyes lowered, refusing to meet her gaze. He placed the water on the cocktail table with a trembling hand. "Liam," Madeline said. It wasn't an accusation. It was barely a question. He froze. He slowly lifted his head. His eyes were dull, lacking the spark of arrogance that had once defined him. "Hello, Madeline," he whispered. The world seemed to stop spinning. The jazz band playing in the background faded away. "You're working here?" she asked, looking at his uniform. "Catering agency," he said, his voice flat. "It's a gig. I didn't know it was your event until I saw the posters out front. I tried to swap shifts, but my manager said I'd be fired." "You're a lawyer, Liam," she said, genuinely confused. "What happened?" Liam let out a short, dry laugh. "No, I was a lawyer. After the plea deal, I was disbarred. No firm would hire me as a paralegal. Background checks flagged me as a risk. I sold cars for a bit. Then insurance. Now, this." He looked around the room at the wealth, the power, the laughter. "I see you did well," he said, looking back at her. "You look expensive." "I look happy," Madeline corrected him. "There is a difference." Liam swallowed hard. "And the baby. The boy." "He's 5, Madeline said. Her tone hardened. "He's in kindergarten. He loves dinosaurs and chess." "Does he know?" Liam asked, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "Does he know about me?" Madeline took a sip of her water. "He knows his father made a choice. He knows his father isn't here. That's all he needs to know." Liam looked like he had been slapped. "I think about him. Every day." "Do you?" Madeline asked. "Or do you think about the life you could have had, standing next to me?" Liam opened his mouth to answer, but the truth was too heavy. He closed it again. "Excuse me, waiter." A loud, obnoxious man in a red suit called out from a nearby table. "We need more shrimp over here, chop, chop." Liam flinched. The command was degrading, the kind of tone Liam himself used to use on service staff. "I have to go," Liam muttered, his face burning with shame. "I need the tips." "Liam," Madeline said. He stopped. "You got what you wanted," she said softly. "You wanted to be around the elite. You wanted to be in the room where it happens. Well, you're here." Liam looked at her, then at the rude man snapping his fingers, then at the tray in his hand. The irony crushed him. He was in the room, but he was invisible. "Goodbye, Madeline," he whispered. He turned and walked away, disappearing into the sea of black tuxedos, just another servant fetching shrimp for the people he once thought he was better than. Later that night, as the gala was winding down, Madeline walked out the back exit of the museum to the private parking area. Kavanaugh was there, holding the door of the SUV open. Inside, a little boy was sleeping in his car seat, clutching a plastic T-Rex. Madeline smiled, the tension of the night melting away. She climbed in and gently brushed the hair off Leo's forehead. As the car pulled out of the secure lot, passing the staff exit, the headlights swept over a figure sitting on the curb. It was Liam. He had loosened his tie and was smoking a cigarette sitting alone in the rain. He looked up as the black SUV passed. The tinted windows were dark, but he knew who was inside. For a brief second, the interior light of the car flickered on as Madeline checked her phone. Liam saw them. He saw Madeline radiant and strong, and past her, through the gap in the seats, he saw the sleeping profile of a little boy. The boy had his nose. The boy had the chin of the grandfather who had crushed him. Liam stood up instinctively, taking a step toward the car. His hand raised as if to wave, or to beg, or to claim something. But the car didn't slow down. It accelerated, splashing a puddle of dirty water onto Liam's shoes. He stood there watching the taillights fade into the city fog. He realized then that the punishment wasn't prison. The punishment wasn't poverty. The punishment was knowing that the best part of him, his son, was out there living a wonderful life, and he would never be anything more than a cautionary tale told before bedtime. He dropped his cigarette into the puddle. It hissed and went out. "Taxi!" he called out to the empty street, but no one stopped. In the end, Liam Sterling learned the hardest lesson of all. Status is something you buy, but class is something you are. He traded a diamond for a stone, blinded by the glitter of a world that never truly accepted him. Madeline proved that true power isn't about who your father is or how much money is in the bank. It's about the strength to walk away when you are undervalued. She built an empire from her heartbreak, raising a son who would grow up to be everything his father failed to be a man of honor. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemy. It's living so well that they become irrelevant. Wow, what a roller coaster of emotions. From the heartbreak in that penthouse to the ultimate justice at the gala. Madeline's journey proves that the underdog always has the last laugh. If you enjoyed this dramatic story of betrayal, karma, and redemption, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. What did you think of Liam's fate? Did he deserve to be a waiter at her party? Or was that too harsh? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on the next story. We have a shocking tale of a cheating billionaire coming up next week that you won't want to miss. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.